Is this a coup? That probably depends on your perspective. But what's the conflict here? Well, the conflict is we have Democrats. In this article, it is Chuck Schumer, but he is not alone in these calls. He's not alone at all in these calls, but he is calling for the immediate removal of Donald Trump from office following protests in which protesters breached the Capitol building on January 6th of 2021 during the reading and tallying of the electoral votes. The ultimate result of the reading and tallying of the electoral votes was announced by Mike Pence late in the night on January 6th, or perhaps early in the morning on January 7th, depending on what time zone you were in which he declared Joe Biden the next president of the United States, who will be sworn in during the inauguration ceremony on January 20th. President Donald Trump has promised a peaceful transition, despite the media's desperate begging that he do anything else. And I'm characterizing that and categorizing it because the media have been the ones suggesting that there would not be a peaceful transition of power, even though every indication from Trump in the White House was that at the end there would be a peaceful transition of power, that he would fight and pursue any legal options up to inauguration, but that ultimately there will be a peaceful transition of power once all options are exhausted. And that does seem to be the case now. That being said, despite Trump having less than 2 weeks left in office, the Democrats smell blood in the water and they want to remove him immediately, and are suggesting the invocation of the 25th Amendment, which is an amendment that allows the vice president, along with heads of executive departments, to transmit to Congress the inability of the president to conduct his duties. At that point, the vice president assumes the office of president, and a fight between them can ensue, although the timelines here are very short. Perhaps short enough to prevent Donald Trump from objecting to the takeover at all. So the question will be, will Mike Pence engage in this sort of behavior? Will he do it? Will the top executive level members support Mike Pence in this endeavor? Because the president pro tempore of the Senate will support Mike Pence, and the Speaker of the House will support Mike Pence if they choose to go this route. However, this is not the only way to remove the president from office. Of course, the alternative would be impeachment. Articles of impeachment have reportedly already been drafted by Ilhan Omar, have been teased by AOC, and those are likely to be filed very soon in the event that Chuck Schumer doesn't get his way and that the 25th Amendment is not invoked, or something else where President Trump steps down. I do not think that President Trump will step down, but that would certainly be another possibility. So let's take a brief look at the clause of the 25th Amendment that we're talking about. It is Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. Let's talk about the process here. So it's whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives a written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Now, if you're wondering what sort of ailments or conditions the president might have to be in for this to happen, this is a political process. There are no qualifications. There is no challenge. There is no review. There is no petition to the Supreme Court. This is the Constitution. This is how it works. It's the same as impeachment. We're dealing with plenary authority here. We're dealing with powers derived directly from the office of the vice president and the two heads of the houses, the House and the Senate. So thereafter, when the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office. unless the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose if not in session. If the Congress, within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office. The question will be, if this happens, if this 25th Amendment is invoked, notice the timeline. Congress has 21 days to decide. So who's acting president? It says that the president shall resume his office unless the vice president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives a written declaration. That unless would seem to imply that the vice president would continue on in his role as acting president. And if Congress refuses to vote, then the president is effectively out of office. It's like taking a knee with less than 40 seconds on the clock for the last play in a football game. So is this a coup? Why don't you tell me down in the comments what you think? Do you think that this will happen? Do you think impeachment will happen? Do you think the 25th Amendment will be invoked? If it is it a coup? Should Donald Trump resign? Is he responsible for the events of January 6th? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. And I mean this. Peace.